Hello, my name is Dolly Quinn, and I'd like to introduce you to Dolly's Extra Stretchy Longtail Cast-On. I spent many hours searching for the best stretchy cast-on I could find, and didn't find one as satisfactory as this one. So I decided to do a video to share it with other knitters in the world. This is taken from the standard longtail cast-on, but I added a small change to it that makes it more flexible. I have two samples in front of me that I can demonstrate the stretchability of this cast-on. This green sample is made from a cotton acrylic blend yarn. Cotton does not have any natural stretchability, so it's usually very difficult to get the stretch that you want. This sample here, which measures approximately 3 inches when it's in its relaxed mode, can be stretched 50% up to about 4.5 inches, which is pretty good for a cotton. The other sample I have was done using a 100% merino wool. It too is about 3 inches wide. Now merino normally has some amount of natural stretch to it. I can take this one and stretch it to approximately 5 inches, which is about 65% greater than its original width of 3 inches. The other thing I like about this particular cast-on is that both sides are identical. The stitches and the knotting process is the same on either side, so that it makes it completely reversible, especially for cuffs. So let me show you how I do this. It's rather simple. I start with 2 strands of yarn, one strand coming from the center of the ball and the other coming from the outside of the ball. This way I don't have to measure or try to guess how much yarn I need for the number of stitches that I need to cast on. I will take this and make a temporary knot, and then with my needle begin the process. The knot is being held between the first 2 fingers of my right hand, and I only do this for the first couple of stitches until I have some stitches on the needle, and then I forget about the knot. It also helps to give me some tension. The position of the 2 strands of yarn are typical of a longtail cast-on, where you have one strand going around your thumb, the second strand going around your index finger, and the working ends of the yarn are being held by your 3 fingers in your left hand. So to begin with, I form a true stitch by going through the loop in my thumb, picking up the yarn from my index finger, bringing it through the loop on the thumb, dropping the yarn and tightening my stitch. I now have a fully formed stitch on my needle, and I'm back into my longtail position. Here's where I deviate from the standard longtail. I will go through the index finger from behind through the loop on my index finger, pick up the yarn from my thumb, bring it through the loop, drop the yarn, and tighten the stitch. So I'm virtually doing the same thing around my index finger that I'm doing around my thumb. But by alternating each stitch from one strand of yarn to the other, you're getting extra stretch in the final outcome. The other thing to note is that what makes it completely reversible is that the little knot that's formed when you tighten your stitch, the first one, which was created from the thumb, the knot is on the back side of what's facing you. The stitch formed from the index finger, the knot is in the front. So basically, once you know those 2 movements, that's really all you need. You do a stitch from the thumb finger and a stitch from the index, stitch from the thumb, a stitch from your index. and you keep going until you have the required number of stitches on your needle. Now this is great for a 1-1 rib, and I would form the stitches based on the knot that's facing you. For a 2-2 rib, I make a slight change in that I will do 2 from the thumb, followed by 2 stitches from the index finger. But that's the only modification I make to it. If I'm doing garter stitch or stockinette edging, I do the 1-1 routine. So it's only when I do a 2-2 rib that I would make the change. So I'm going to remove those 4 stitches, so I'm still back to the 1-1. Once you have the required number of stitches on your needle, you would cut off the strand that you're not going to knit with, leaving a 6 or 7 inch tail and that you'll weave in later. I usually select the yarn from the center of the ball to knit with, so but it's not mandatory. You can choose to do either one, but just cut one of them off. I then also will eliminate the waist knot and just give it a little tug to tighten that first stitch. But as you can see, that first stitch is formed just identical to the rest of them. So then, depending on which stitch is facing you, in this particular case, the last stitch that was created on this side is a knit stitch. It does not have a fully formed knot. The knot that's facing me is on the second stitch, so this would be a purl. This will be a knit, this will be a purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, and so forth. So I hope that I have piqued your interest in trying this technique, and maybe I'll be back later with a bind-off. Thank you for watching.